We're back. Apologize for the 2-minute let's start, but what we have here, some technical difficulties, which, as you can imagine, sometimes happen. Okay, so breakfast tacos. I am so excited for this. I know Diana's excited for this. This is going to be fun. So we're basically doing 4 different components today. The first one we're going to do is the potatoes because they're going to take the longest. So I'm going to move this for a second because I'm going to need it back. We're going to roast these potatoes. Again, always work back to front in terms of time. So start with the thing that's going to take the longest, work your way forward, and that's going to save you the most time. So these potatoes, now you can go a bunch of different ways. I honestly don't know if I'm going to add more spices or not. Maybe. I'm actually going to add arrowroot powder though. So the reason I'm adding arrowroot powder is it's going to add some crispiness to these potatoes. So I would treat it similar to cornstarch. And, we've talked about corn before. You don't want it if it's, GMO. That's why I don't use cornstarch a ton. We know corn's one of the most sprayed foods out there. And to be perfectly honest, that's something you got to avoid. So some salt. We got a lot of potatoes here. Some pepper. And then we're doing a couple things. So we're going to be making a tofu egg. Actually, I need tahini. That's going to be kind of like our, like the egg portion of our taco. We're going to do some black beans, which I think we'll do last. And now I don't have tomatoes to add to the black beans, but we got a lot going on, and we have a pico de gallo that we're going to kind of add. So we got a lot of goodness coming in. Now you can get as flavorful as you want to get with these potatoes. I'm going to add a little bit of ground cumin and smoked paprika if I could find it. Thought I brought all my spices, yeah? I did, okay. So ground cumin. And I'm just going to use the rest. I know I got another one somewhere. Smoked paprika. And you could just go straight salt and pepper if that's what you want. That's totally feasible here. No way. No way. And then a little bit of olive oil to kind of coat everything. And by the way, my oven is preheated to 425. You can toss these however you like. Some people like doing it in a bowl. I don't know. There's something about getting your hands on everything that I just kind of enjoy, except when I drop a potato like that. But the goal is kind of work in all the spices, make sure they're as evenly coated, evenly distributed as you can possibly get. And then the next thing we're going to do, believe it or not, is actually do the pico de gallo. The reason being is because we want kind of those flavors to marinate a little bit. So we're going to work that kind of in first. So I'm going to spread this out. No. Okay. Next. Woo. So pico de gallo. Let me lower this a little bit. So in here, we have some cherry tomatoes that I cut up already. A little bit of garlic. A little bit of red onion. Cilantro. You can add pepper. So bell pepper works really well here. Or a like serrano pepper. If you want more spice. Because the people in my life do not like the spice. I unfortunately did not add any. Also need a bell pepper, which I did not cut up. So no problem, I'll take care of that. But the one thing I want to do here is add my spices and lime juice. So I got 2 limes here. One I'm going to use for my pico. And the other I'm actually going to use for my, actually, no, I'm going to use 1.5 for my pico. And the other half I'm going to add to my black beans. And you can use the zest under normal circumstances. When I have all my kitchen stuff, I would use, actually, no, I'm going to do 1 and 1. But the reason I want to add this first is so this can marinate a little bit. So it can take up some of that lime flavor that we're looking for. So I'm going to add a little bit of salt. And the longer this sits, the more those flavors are going to come together. So it'll actually build flavor, over the next, I don't know, half hour or so sitting at room temperature. Obviously, the last step is we're going to have to mix it. The next, we're going to work on the egg. So I'm going to give this a mix. And again, we want, the key to a good breakfast taco, in my opinion, is you have to have a fresh component. And some people will go with, avocado, which we also have. We're going to add that too. But I do think having some sort of fresh vegetable or salsa, like a pico de gallo, that's a little bit more fresh than, say, like your canned salsa, really, really makes a difference. My opinion. But I prefer going with pico for this type of stuff, pico de gallo, because I just think I like the crunch. I like the herbiness because you're not really getting that from any other kind of component in this dish. Now, one thing I'm going to do, because I have all these taco shells, and I did not is later I'm going to warm them up. And some people ask me, like, which ones do I use? So sometimes I like these. I like these Ezekiel Food for Life. These tend to be my favorite. The nice part about these is these are in the freezer section. So they're very easy usually to kind of find at most health food stores. Honestly, you can find these. I've seen them in regular grocery stores too. So it's not like they're particularly difficult. And I'm not going to toast these today, honestly, just because people are eating at different times. So I don't want to go through like the grilling process as I normally would in most situations. Particularly because when you grill stuff like this, it's best to have it fresh. And if we're not going to have it fresh, I want to make sure I have everything on track here. So bear with me. Blah, 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 blah. Where'd it go? I had it. Okay. See, sometimes just to keep me on track, I have everything up. So we got the pico done. Next is our eggs. So we're going to start with that. So we have our thing on. By the way, this tofu, I'm using extra firm. I need my camera. I don't know why I didn't bring that back up. So I can see what's on camera. I'm using extra firm. I pressed this for about a half hour. I do have our nutritional yeast. We have our turmeric. We have garlic, onion powder. That's going to be where we get a lot of our flavor from. And then we're also going to add some plant-based milk, which I have somewhere. I'll find it. And that's going to be kind of the base of our tofu. Now, depending on how long do you want to cook this? That's going to depend on the type of egg you're looking for. Now, I tend to look for a drier egg, if that makes any sense. I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil on this pan here. Because I kind of want to get that crispiness. So let's take my picture, or my camera. I'm also going to add some scallions to this. Oh, as I knock things down along the way. Okay, so a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, nothing too crazy. I'm going to add some scallions. Since I'm not using onion, I figured I'll use scallion. And I'm going to toast this up for a minute or two before adding the tofu. So I'm just going to let this go until it gets aromatic. In the meantime, I'm just going to dice this pepper to go with our beans. So kind of as that goes, just going to quickly chop this up here. And honestly, it might even be quicker than that because it's so little. Usually, rarely am I sauteing something by itself like that. So I think the pepper, onion, garlic combination is going to go better with the black beans. So that's kind of what we're doing. And then we have, of course, a couple other garnishes we got to put together. Okay, so next, I'm kind of getting that crispy smell, that aromatic smell. So we're going to go in with our tofu here. I'm going to add, that's a little far away. Let's come closer here. There we go. Just a touch of salt. Now, I don't have an ingredient here that I usually add to this. And that is black salt, also known as kala namak. And that is, it's obviously, it's a salt, but it's black in color. And it's black because it actually contains sulfur, which kind of gives egg its kind of eggy flavor. It's these sulfur-containing compounds that kind of give that up. So using black salt, and you don't need much, sometimes like a teaspoon, maybe a little bit more for like a block of tofu, which is what this is all you need to kind of do the trick. But it makes a big difference. Oh, here's my plant milk. So while that goes for a few minutes, I'm going to try to make like a quick mixture. Actually, let me get this pepper out of the way. Bear with me. What I'm going to add to this tofu. Because we want to add a little bit more richness to it. And obviously a ton of flavor. As we know, tofu takes on flavor very well. And as with all soy products, as we've talked about before, you definitely want to make sure you're getting organic. It's one of the most sprayed foods out there. And you really don't want to be playing around with that, in my opinion. Okay. So first, tahini. You get in on this. So tahini is going to add like a richness, a creaminess to our eggs. Again, I'm going to try to dry these eggs out a little bit. I prefer them, or this tofu out. I prefer this on the drier side. That's just kind of my taste. If you prefer it, say a little bit, I guess, eggier, for lack of a better word, all you're going to do is basically your cook time is going to change. It's going to be much shorter. I'll give this another shake here. I'm going to go in with some plant milk. This one is, I don't even know what this one is, almond. That's the joy of living with another person. Sometimes, most of the stuff I do pick out, but I don't pick out all of it. The plant milk is usually one that's not on my list. Now, turmeric generally is a pretty mild spice in terms of flavor, but this is going to give this tofu that obvious kind of yellow color. Nutritional yeast, that's going to give kind of like a cheesy texture to this, which is always good. Onion powder. Garlic. And then I'm going to add salt and pepper later. But I'm going to add a little bit of salt right now. Just a little bit. And then I'm going to give this a whisk before adding it. But first, I'm just going to give my tofu a toss here. So we want to get that tahini incorporated, all these spices incorporated, you know, as evenly as possible. Just make sure there are no clumps. And I'm going to add a little bit more turmeric because I want that kind of yellow color. And like I said, if you want that eggy flavor, you're going to want to look for kala namak or black salt, which again, I just don't have here. I have it actually at our apartment, but I do not have it here. Because to be honest, I don't make stuff like this often enough, and I didn't want to buy more. Particularly like spices that I don't use a ton of. Some things I'll buy extra of because I use it a lot. But things like that, because I don't use it a ton, because it's for like special occasions or stuff like this. Tell you what, that tastes eggy. Okay. So very straightforward. We're going back to our eggs here, or our tofu here. And we're just pouring this over. And we're basically just going to cook this until the eggs kind of absorb, or the tofu, I'm going to keep doing that. The tofu kind of absorbs it and becomes that kind of golden eggy color that you want to see. But I will say that mixture tastes good. And you can already see when that turmeric hits the pan, you're getting that bright kind of golden color. So I'm going to raise the heat, kind of bring this to a simmer a little faster. And we just kind of want this to take up as much flavor as possible. And I'm going to stir this pretty frequently here so I'm getting all that flavor. Also going to heat this bowl. I do have to slice up some avocados. And this actually shouldn't take too long. This should kind of bubble up and come together pretty nicely. Again, if you want that runnier texture, you might want to take it off heat right around now. Like I said, I prefer that drier consistency, so I'm going to keep kind of cooking. Keep cooking this down a little bit. And man, oh man. So next week, I did want to bring this up. So next week, I will be moving. And it's not back to our old apartment. We're actually moving. I actually just got off a live. I was talking with Street MD, and I was telling him, you know, we're leaving. And, you know, it's unfortunate what's going on here in New York City, but an opportunity came at a time when we're not particularly welcome here. And it just seemed like an opportunity to kind of take that chance. So it will be from a brand new kitchen. Now, not next week, but the week after. Now, I will say beyond next week. Oh, and by the way, next week we're doing a butterbean artichoke and caper pasta. I figured it's actually the last meal I'm going to cook in this kitchen. And considering I live with 2 Italian people at the moment, why not make it celebratory and make it a pasta-themed Last Supper, so to speak. So that's what that's going to be. It's not going to be very difficult. I will talk about like alternatives and stuff like that. But sometimes you want some comfort food and you got to do stuff for that. But it's still going to be loaded with protein and nutrition and fiber, of course. It's just going to be a pasta dish. So a little bit of salt and pepper. And these, maybe a little bit of, I would say, nutritional yeast. And these are good to go. And again, the nice thing about tofu is that, like I said, it takes on flavor very well. So I'm going to lower the heat just a little bit so I don't get any burning. I want to maximize the tofu I could get out of this. I'm just going to let this sit for another minute. When that's done, I'm going to take my potatoes out, give them a toss. And then it's going to be getting everything else together for the beans. So this is coming together very nicely. At least I think so. So while those tofu eggs finish up, I'm just going to start doing a little bit of work in the background here because I got a lot to talk about when it comes to new things going on and things available, things that I can share or give or help with. Oh, no, that's right. I thought I had the wrong top for the wrong thing. I do need ground cumin though. All right, good. And this is kind of the texture I like. Again, if you prefer a runnier egg consistency, by all means. I prefer this kind of drier, crispier type. Also, fun fact, I was never like a huge fan of eggs. But now that we got this taken care of, all I'm going to do is basically pour it back into the bowl it was in. And then we're going to reuse this pan for our beans. And we're just going to kind of let this chill. So actually, let me kind of get everything over to one side here. Okay. So our tofu eggs are complete and delicious. That is good. So all I'm going to do right now, I just have to move my camera back so I can open the oven, is give these potatoes a toss. Now these are going to get really crispy because I added that arrowroot powder. You can actually already see a little bit. Some of these edges are getting there, which is good. Again, I always prefer cooking on a higher heat for things like potatoes if you want to get that crispy edge. Now, again, another reason why I added the arrowroot powder is because probably this many potatoes I probably should have put on 2 different baking sheets. But in the interest of just kind of getting this done and not having less cleanup at the end of the day, I decided to do it on one. So if you are going to do it on one, like I did here, you really, really want to make sure that you're giving these a toss because some of these are going to be soft and some of them are going to be crispy. And you want to make sure, particularly the ones in the middle generally, tend to not get as crispy, especially if they're not on top. So want to make sure you're giving all your potatoes equal amount of love because it makes a difference. Okay. Next, I'm going to turn this. Actually, I'm just going to quickly just scrape this pan because I don't even think I'm going to clean it. I'm just going to use it again for the black beans. And it's nice because I can save some of that residual flavor and that's going to end up on my beans. So it's not necessarily like all hope is lost. And it can add flavor, like I mentioned, to my beans. So, back on. Oop, nope. Back on. Gonna let that heat up for a second. Okay. Now we're going to work with the black beans. And then while that's happening, we can finish kind of everything else we need to do here. So this is going to come together, like most things, very quickly. Okay. A little bit of oil. You don't need to use it, but because I don't want to clean the pan, let me use a little. Again, at the end of the day, it's not exactly like I'm using a ton here. And like I said, if you're using a higher quality one, that's not too shabby. Okay. So we're getting that sizzle. That means we go in with our garlic, pepper, and onion. So red onion, bell pepper, and some garlic. I'm just going to add a pinch of salt. A little bit. Okay. And we are going to let this go for a few minutes. Just want to get everything as coated as possible. Then we could start to clean this up a little bit. Okay, so, well, actually, no, we're gonna do that last because avocados can go bad. But I will move this. So, hello there. How we doing? So, it's been a big week. Had a lot of fun last night. It was nice connecting with Dr. Ray and Danny and Dr. Brad. So we did an Instagram live that we broke up into 2 pieces. You can find the first part on mine, where we ran from about 8:30 to a little bit after 9. We broke it up into 2 sometimes because Instagram live kind of, cuts us off. So or after an hour. So, but part two, and actually Dr. Brad was there for most of part two and not part one. But if you want to check that out, that is on Danny Perrott, aka the People's Herbalist. It's on his site or his page. His page. So you can check out part two there. And it was a lot of fun. We talked about things I think were a little bit more lighthearted. Sometimes I think we get bogged down so much in the serious stuff going on that you have to remember. I think the good things, the connections you made, and try to make the best of whatever situation life throws at you. And like I said, because of what's happened in the world, I've been able to meet people and Street MD, who I was just talking to before doing this class. It wouldn't have happened any other way. So, I closed with those remarks because it meant a lot to me. And it's always nice, I think, to, connect with people that under other circumstances you probably, never would have. So that's what we got for that. Let me quickly. So I'm going to do this quick, and then I'm going to pop them, I think, in the fridge. One of these is a little softer than the other, but you do what you can. So this one is the one that's a little softer. Oh, and it looks just about perfect. Okay. So you've seen me do this before with avocados. I basically split them in half. Oh, this one's got a very small pit. Try to get the pit out using a knife. And then you get rid of the chef's knife. And to get the actual fruit out, I use a butter knife. So I'm going to use basically whatever, but a duller knife. And I'm going to cut to the skin, but not through it. And there are a lot of different techniques you could use to cut an avocado. This is just the one that I use. Because if I was using a chef's knife, it would just go right through the skin of the avocado. And, I would cut myself. But with the butter knife, because the edge is so dull, there's much less of a chance of that happening. And you could actually feel it. Like you can feel when you hit the back end of the avocado, the skin of the avocado. Sometimes if you're using a really sharp chef's knife, it'll just cut right through and you might not be able to feel it. So using a butter knife that is blunter, you have a lot more feel, a lot more control, particularly for this. Then I'm just going to kind of squeeze out. Some of these are going to come out some of them are going to come out okay. For the pictures, we'll use the ones that come out okay. Yeah, this one I don't think is ripe enough, but it'll work. It's like on the border where the skin is probably a little bit too tough, but we're too far in now. What is nice is these pieces will look good for pictures. Assuming I could get the skin off, which I can. It's just going to take a little work. So, not foolproof. Unfortunately, I picked out one that did well and one that did not. So, sometimes that happens. It's always tough choosing because I go shopping. So, usually, peek behind the curtain, I do most of my shopping on Sundays, or usually most weeks I do my shopping on Sundays. So particularly for like a Wednesday class, and I'm just gonna toss my garlic and onions and pepper very quickly. I kind of have to like strategize. Like, okay, I'm gonna use these avocados 3 days from now. Like, is it going to be good by then? And sometimes it's tough to tell. Usually, I've gotten a lot better at it, but sometimes you still miss. So this particular avocado was a miss. But, like I said, still look good for pictures. So you take what you can get. Get some perfectly formed, wedges here at the expense of it being, a little bit underripe, but that's okay. Okay. Next, our spices and such are pretty much done. Good to go. Oh, sorry, our aromatics, not our spices. So we're going to go in with our beans. I'm just going to add a little bit of water. To kind of do a little bit of the deglazing of the pan here. Kind of clean up any bits that got in on the pan, particularly in the middle. Because that's where kind of the hot spot is on this stove, at least. It's going to be interesting in a week, moving back to a place with an electric stove. I haven't had an electric stove in a very long time, since I lived in Connecticut. So that'll be interesting. And we're going to cook this down for a little bit before we add our spices. Okay. Well, that's going. But to tell you what else is going on. So, come back over here and let's finish this cooking. Or this cleaning. So, along with all that going on, we had a new podcast come out yesterday. Now, obviously, no surprise, the immune system has been a very popular topic, particularly over the past, 18 months or so. So this week was a big week for it. So I did another Instagram Live on the immune system, things you can do, things you can make a difference with my journey back home 111. But we also did so I get so many questions on the immune system. So what Dr. Callie and I did is we put together a 70-minute masterclass episode on things you can do to amp up, to optimize your immune system. And that came out. That's on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts. So this week's Art of Eating episode is all about the immune system. So if you want to go check that out, if it's something you're interested in, we got you covered. And speaking of immune system, what we're doing next, so a quick peek behind the curtain here, is next for our podcast. Give me a second here. So next for our podcast, we're actually doing a big deep dive into mushrooms, which I'm very excited about. So with the rise in interest in immune system function, has also come this rise in interest in mushrooms, mushroom extracts, not only for immune system reasons, but for mental health reasons, for anti-cancer properties, for anti-tumor effects, I just said that, immune effects, mood stabilization, adaptogen properties, get in that flow state. You can find mushrooms for everything. They are, I think, the hottest class of foods out there today. And there's a good reason for it. They are super powerful substances, super powerful. Let me move that over. I'm going to need a little help for that. They are super powerful, super versatile, and in my opinion are going to become more useful, more well-known, more popular in the coming years because they're so powerful. And we're going to start, I believe, talking about lion's mane, which is known as one of the brain-boosting ones, but has tons of anti-tumor, anti-cancer, antioxidant, immune system boosting properties that we're going to get into starting next week. And we're going through all the different mushrooms. And what I wanted to say was if you're looking for high quality mushroom extracts, I would recommend checking out my website or going through what I have on Instagram. So I have a discount code with Life Cycle Mushrooms, Life Cycle Extracts. They specialize in mushroom extracts. They have the highest quality ones I've seen. They're actually out of Australia. And if you were ever going to look for an extract, a mushroom extract, I would go with theirs. I think they have the best out there right now. Okay, back to the show. There was my little commercial. So our black beans are looking pretty good. They're looking pretty toasty. They're getting acclimated. Now we want them to keep their texture, so we don't want to cook them like all the way down. We don't want to mash them. So the next thing is we have to add our flavors. So I'm going to go in with some garlic powder. Onion powder. Ground cumin, smoked paprika, and a touch of chili. Just going to lower the heat for a second here. And as I go through this, ground cumin, smoked paprika, one of my favorite spices, as you know, along with chilies. I love all the chilies, but I just don't get to use it a ton. I got to be really careful because I have a lot of people who are spicy food sensitive around me. I'm not going to name names. It's not me. I love spicy food. Okay. Then finally, that other lime I cut up, that's going in here too. So we're just going to juice it straight in. Then, of course, we're going to add salt and pepper, but we're going to give this a stir first. When that smells, those aromas are, I must say, pretty amazing. Then we're going to add one more flourish to this because honestly, I don't know how else I'm going to use them. Because I have the rest of these scallions that I forgot to add. So you're just going to kind of go in at the end to give like a bright crunch. Want to make sure all these spices, everything is coated as evenly as possible. And we'll go in with our salt and pepper. That smells delicious, I must say. Start with a little salt. Could always add more. A little pepper. Oh, another reason, I did not mention this, but another reason, one of the reasons that I prefer kind of these drier beans and tofu eggs is because since I'm wrapping them, putting them in a wrap, the more liquid they are, that the bigger, the greater chance that they can fall apart. So And because I got a pico de gallo that is, pretty, there's, water from the tomatoes and the lime juice, you don't want to make that tortilla shell too soggy where it can be an issue. Give this a quick taste. Yeah, I'd say those beans are pretty damn flavorful. Okay. Now I'm going to keep this pan here because what I'm going to want to do is roll one of these and then try to press it on the pan. And you'll see what I mean. The question is just, are these potatoes going to be done? Because they might need a little longer. Honestly, I don't know. But if they do need a little bit longer, I'm just going to pick a few that I think look good and kind of go from there. Because the rest of our components here, oh wow, these are good. Could actually use a little bit of salt. So I'm going to do very quickly. Just add a little bit of salt on top and just kind of stir it through. Actually use this spoon here. I'm going to use another spoon for the beans. These are obviously going to need to stir because I just added some salt. The steam facial. That's the boiling pasta water special, the steam facial. Okay, so quickly, just kind of wipe this off. I need a couple things here, one of which is a plate. I know we're looking at a lot of wires here, but I'm going to pull those potatoes out, kind of see where we're at. I don't think they're done, but we'll see. They actually look a little bit better than I thought, but I still think they're going to need a little bit longer. So, which isn't an issue. I'm just going to pull a few out for this kind of demo, and we'll work kind of with what we got. Okay. So what I do need is a plate. Okay. Shell. Let's come over here. Try not to burn this wire. So what I've learned with every single time that I make tacos, burritos, is A, use a bigger shell. Now, I'm going to let you know right now, this is too small for a true burrito. Unfortunately, I could not find burrito shells when I went to the store. But for the sake of this demo, I'm still going to try to give it a shot. So what I'm going to do is actually start with the avocado on the bottom, because I think using a fat source on the bottom is going to help kind of everything else stick. So that's why you'll notice that sauces or higher fat kind of contents tend to go on the bottom of most kind of wraps. It's so things don't move, or sandwiches. So these potatoes definitely need a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is add a couple and then pop these back in the oven, because, well, they just need to be back in the oven. So I'm just going to try to give these a stir, mix these up as best I can. Sorry I'm doing this off camera, but I'll get there. Give me a minute. They are good though. Some of these ones, especially in the middle, need a little bit longer, but they are good. I'll take the wins when I can get them. Okay. I'm also going to turn my pan back on. And I'll explain why in a second. I'm going to add a little bit of our egg, our tofu egg. And you see why burritos, you're already going to need a bigger taco, because this is already getting a little crazy, but I want to do this the right way. So, some of our beans. Then, of course, we want some of our pico de gallo. Now, the trick is, like I said, you don't want to add the parts that are too kind of wet. So try to take some, off the top for that fresh component. I think this is already going to be too big. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this properly, but I'm going to try to assemble. No way. This is going to be too big. So, yeah, I don't have the burrito shells. I'm not even going to try. But this is what your soft taco is going to look like. Now, and then, obviously, if I would do it this way, I would add the avocado on top. And then I would also add hot sauce, anything else you want to put on top. Cilantro. I like hot sauce. Hot sauce is my favorite. So there we go. Sorry about that. I wish I could have got the burritos. Unfortunately, we had to go with tacos because that's what was available. But if you had burrito shells, you can essentially do them. You want to put them face down or fold side down on your grill pan, and then that's going to seal it. So maybe next week, maybe once I move, I'll do another taco or burrito, actually demonstrating that, but I didn't get the right size. So that is on me. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you had another good class. Like I said, the mushrooms are starting next week. So we're starting with lion's mane, and we're going through a lot of different mushrooms. So I'm going to start that next week. If you want to get life cycle mushrooms, you can use Dr. Vincent 10, Dr. Vincent, Vincent, 1010 at checkout, or you could use the link in my bio to get 10% off. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. Much love to you all. I'll see you for pasta next week for the last class in this kitchen before we move upstate. I'll see you later. Much love. Have a good one.